All right, welcome back to Steeler Thoughts and Chief Feelings. I am your co-host, Chris Dorst. I'm a Steelers fan and philosophy professor. And my other co-host here is
I'm Ajay Nair. I am a Chiefs fan and psychiatrist. Uh, Good to be back. Thank you for all of you all that have been following along. You may have noticed we've started putting up some film reviews, and we will try our best to continue to do that throughout the season. It's been fun kind of seeing the engagement. Thanks to all of you that are following along on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at STCF715. You may have noticed that on Twitter we are putting up even more clips than we do on the video, just if there are extra clips. So follow us along on Twitter if you want some added film stuff that doesn't make it into any of our videos. But yeah, thanks
yeah,
for
I
all
should
the
just jump
engagement.
in here because I want to say that Jay's been putting out some pretty sweet like play breakdowns from preseason games that I guess you got the all 22 footage, and so you can do these like full breakdowns and spend like 7 minutes on one play, which is just like that's the kind of stuff you really got to appreciate, right? Like there's so much going on so quickly in this game. To see it like highlighted like that is just very cool. So check it out if you haven't yet.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to do, and hopefully we'll be able. My goal is to keep doing it all year. I think that would be really fun. Um,
Yeah,
but let's talk about the games. Should we? Let's. I guess we can start with the Steelers. Um,
that's
we've had.
fine. Yeah, I should mention. I think as I was just telling you, like this has been an incredibly hectic couple weeks just in terms of like my work schedule and personal things. So I have paid way less attention to the Steelers preseason than I normally would. And so I might end up turning around some of these, whatever we talk about, questions that you raised for me. I might turn them around to you to see if you have some more insight on them because I am unusually uh, badly prepared, I think, to discuss the current state of the Steelers. Having said that, I would be happy to still do so, right? I mean, I, ignorance has never been a deterrent for me. So why should I start?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will know a lot less about like the narratives about the team. I will know how certain players played in the first quarters of their games. That's mainly what I've been looking at. So, um,
That's fair.
uh, I guess let's start with. I actually let's just go with like general narratives. There have been 2 weeks of the preseason. What are the general narratives about the team? What has this team looked like, and what are people saying as far as expectations for the season?
Well, the offense has been bad, which is the opposite of what it looked like last preseason.
So maybe that's a
I
good thing.
guess, yeah, exactly right. I guess that I should just hold on to the fact that the preseason was no good indicator of the regular season last year. So hopefully the same is true this year. Uh, but yeah, the offense has been pretty dang bad. I think they've scored 15 total points so far.
Yeah.
And 3 and out is our default. That's just been our default for the last couple of years. So, it's more of the same. Uh, I think we still don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. Mike Tomlin described it as sort of an incomplete body of work or evidence or something like that, just because, Russell Wilson's been injured for a while here. We've seen Fields act more or less like we were used to seeing Fields act, right? I mean, he looks very fluid and athletic, but then doesn't, you know, doesn't always make the plays that he should be making. And Russell Wilson got to play in the last game, and again, I don't know. I mean, 3 and out was the default there. So took a bunch of sacks. Yeah, it didn't look great. But we can talk more about the details about maybe why it didn't look great. Maybe down the road here, but yeah, I think that's sort of the more, it would have been cool to at this point if one of them like just looked awesome and gave us all the confidence in the world that they could be the starter for the regular season. Um, but we don't seem to have an answer yet. We've got some injuries elsewhere. Jalen Warren's got a hamstring injury that I think I think the plan is for him to be back in week 1, but that's not a great sign at this point. Um, Nate Herbig was our potentially going to be our starting center, but or at least he was in the running. Not anymore though. He's
Yeah.
out for the year with a torn rotator cuff, so that's not great. Um, but I think all teams have their injuries at this time of year, so it could be worse. Um, the defense has been fine. I think there's some exciting players to watch on there, and maybe can get into people that I'm excited about on later. But I Broderick Jones on the offensive line has not looked good, so that's another fun fun development. Those are a couple of like the narratives, I guess, that I'm just jumping around. And at wide receiver, Roman Wilson has been hurt for basically the whole time here, and it's kind of looking like he might start the season on IR, which
Oh,
is not great for a team that's as thin at wide receiver after Pickens as we are. I just cannot imagine George Pickens getting hurt. Where are we at? It's just not good. But speaking of wide receiver, there's the whole issue with Brandon Ayuk, still not resolved. I mean, it looks like we kind of know where it's going, and it doesn't look like he's getting up in Pittsburgh, but there's still rumors and things flying around there, and I just want it to end at this point. So, so there's a bunch of things. I don't know anything that you want to go into more about.
yeah, maybe a couple things. First of all, regarding the QB situation, has the performances in the first two preseason games, have they changed your lean at all or your opinion about where the team should go?
I would say no. I mean, we only saw one game of Russell Wilson and got the impression, I think, from Arthur Smith's comments that he's still kind of not 100%. Um, but I think, I mean, my prediction would be that we go with Wilson to start. Just because I know, or I feel like I know Mike Tomlin is going to value that, the experience he's had, and the leadership experience in particular that he's had. Um, I don't know how long you would stick with him if he's really, really struggling. And it does feel like he's going to be put into a situation where you would sort of expect him to struggle if the offense, well, who knows exactly. But if we're as thin at wide receiver as it looks like we are, if Jalen Warren misses time because of his injury, then like how can you expect him in this new situation, not having had much or as much time as you would want to practice with the first team offense? How can you expect him to just come in there and light things up? I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I'd be surprised if he did. There's a kind of, I don't know, it feels like he's not in a great situation right now. But it does feel like I expect him to be the starter, and he's going to have to maybe pull a rabbit or two out of a hat here to stay the starter, like maybe well into the season. That's kind of where I see things right now. I don't think, certainly watching Fields play in these two games, the athleticism still jumps off the tape. He's very quick and fluid, and he does a better job, obviously, of scrambling when things break down. But that's can't rely on that too much. Well, maybe you can. Who knows? I, he can be exciting and very frustrating, and I think that's exactly what we knew coming in. So there's nothing that I've seen that really changes my expectation about what we'll see starting in week 1. I think it'll be Wilson as the starter, and I think it'll be kind of rough, to be honest. I think we're going to have to lean on the running game and make it one of those the kinds of offensive performances that Steelers fans are now sadly used to from the last several years. Like, they sort of grind it out, like we're gonna keep it close and then hopefully win it in the fourth quarter with some clutch plays or something like that. But hopefully at least later in the year things start to gel with whoever the quarterback is at that point, and we can actually have a more exciting offense. But it's hard for me to see that being the offense being that exciting early in the year here.
Well, even if they could graduate from like last year's Kenny Pickett to like 2004 Ben Roethlisberger, where he would throw like 17 passes a game, he would just be in a really controlled offense, and he ran it really well. Like if they could just do that, I feel like that would be great.
Yeah, to have and that like Russell Wilson should kind of be able to do that kind of thing, right? Like, ask very, make a couple big plays, but don't ask him to do a ton each game, right? And rely on the running game and the defense. Uh, it's just, I don't know. I mean, and, like comparison wise, that was Ben's first year in the offense, and this is Russell Wilson's first year in this new offense. So, shouldn't he be able to? I don't know. I mean, Ben was a different animal. But yeah, I mean, that I guess that could be the hope. I don't know if that kind of offense does that kind of offense still work in today's NFL. I don't know. I mean, you could
Well, I
hope.
mean, with if the Kenny Pickett offense can win 10 games last year, then I feel like it works at least to make to the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I'm just that team. The team for a couple of years now has just been so tough to watch. I really would like to be looking forward to something more exciting on offense. The defense is exciting, but it's been a while since I was like excited when the offense took the field. And I think maybe the first drive or two of week one I'll be excited, but I'm not, just because I don't know exactly what to expect. But after that, I think it's going to wear off pretty quickly.
It reminds me of, in like I think the year was 2008, the last Herm Edwards year. The Chiefs went 2-14, and we had Larry Johnson still, and I just wanted us to run it every time because I felt like 2nd and 10 was impossible. Like once we got to 2nd and 10, it was like, oh, I don't think we can get 10 yards in 2 plays. Like,
Yeah. You know that feeling when like the 10, like when you're on offense and 10 yards looks like, how the heck could we move it that far in 3 plays? Whereas when you're
yeah,
on defense, I remember those feelings where it's like, how can we stop them from getting 10 yards in 3 plays?
yeah.
I mean, there were years like 2013 maybe where our defense was pretty bad, and that was the feeling. I feel fairly, I feel optimistic about the defense. I mean, I think I said earlier that for not detailed reasons, but just for you know reversion to the mean kinds of reasons, I would expect the defense to be not quite as good as we are used to them being this year. But still, they're exciting to watch. Uh, and we'll see.
I think with the defense, part of it is hard because, like, I don't think we didn't see TJ Watt or Alex Highsmith at all. And what's
Mm-hmm.
crazy to me is I thought the backup edges were really good. Both of them,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
I remember Nick Herbig's name, and I can't remember
yeah. Nick
53's name.
Herbig is looking so exciting. He's one of the people that when I was thinking about people I was excited about from his first couple of weeks of the preseason, he was one of those names. It looks like he had a sack or maybe two so far, and it just looked like the speed and explosiveness is it sort of reminds me of uh, who does it remind me of? I mean, I thought of not Lawrence Timmons, Lamar Woodley a little bit, but I think he's a little bit faster and slimmer than Woodley was. Woodley was a big chunk of muscle, but not that he's not that Herbert's not. But yeah, he's one of the ones I'm really excited about. Could be another good Steelers linebacker for a couple of years here.
Yeah, and I should check the name of the other gentleman I'm thinking of. Number 53.
Is it well inside linebacker or outside linebacker? You think I would
Outside
know
linebacker.
53 out there? Was it Moon?
I don't think that ringing. Oh, it's Johnson, Kyron Johnson.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
from
Um,
I actually kind of liked his pass rush. Like he could like bend around a tackle better than probably every Chiefs edge we have. Like I mean, that's not really what the Chiefs are after. We kind of go more for power rushers. Our one kind of bendy guy is Felix Anudike-Uzomah. But I don't know. I was just like, this guy is like their fourth edge. Like, I feel like the defense at the very least is deep, and even the defensive tackle with Montravius Adams made plays that impressed me. Like, I just felt like there are a lot of people on the defensive line slash outside linebacker edges that are very impressive, even down the roster. The depth is pretty impressive.
I feel maybe better about the defense than I have been feeling. I think Larry Ogunjobi. I'm actually like I sort of just like he was fine for basically 2 years with us, but I'm actually excited about him now. I think he's been a little bit more explosive than we're used to, and I think he had like a Liz Frank injury, and it's been a struggle to get back from that. But I think hopefully he's finally fully back from that, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. Keanu Benton, again, another guy on the defensive line that looks like he's going to be awesome, make a big jump this year. And then, of course, you've got Cam Hayward there. And then, yeah, like you were saying, with the backups like Montravius Adams, DeMarvin Leal, both of them should be good. So we have some depth there, both there and at linebacker, that in a way that makes one excited. And one hopes the secondary can hold up, really. But that'll be the question, I guess.
Well, yeah, moving over to the secondary, I saw a quote from Terrell Austin basically saying that the slot corner is going to be whoever shows up. So not maybe not the most inspiring quote from your defensive coordinator.
No, it's not. And I honestly don't know. Yeah, I don't know who to expect it to be at this point. I think we should be in the market for one once some cuts are made, but that's not going to be a super. I mean, unless someone accidentally cuts a really good slot corner and we're able to sign them, I don't think we're going to find a great solution there either. So it's going to be interesting. I do feel pretty good about Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson as the starting 1-2. But slot, I don't know what to do. We'll see.
And because it seems like you have three good inside linebackers now with the addition of Peyton Wilson to go with Patrick Queen and what is it? Landon
Roberts. Yeah, Cole Holcomb not being ready. Yeah.
So who do you think are the two starters of those three?
I would think that it's going to be Queen and Roberts to start here, just because Wilson's a rookie and he's probably, Roberts has been in the system longer. And he's not been bad, right? Like he's been pretty solid. So I think I would expect it to be them. But I am excited about Peyton Wilson there. I think he's obviously got to learn how to use his speed and athleticism at this level, and he's got a worrying injury history. But if he can avoid injury, I think he could be a steal, definitely.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how early he was playing in the games. And he played a lot of snaps with Patrick Queen. It seems like he's gonna be really cycled in there.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be a situation where it's not maybe there's a Dave. I don't want to say a de jure starter, officially there's a starter that it's Roberts, but he splits time more or less 50-50 with Wilson. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't start that way, it quickly trends that way early in the season.
Then the next thing I wanted to talk about, a little more detail about Broderick Jones, just because I was kind of surprising. So what do you think about this? To me, admittedly not at all being an offensive line expert, so my opinions take with a huge chunk of salt. But it looked to me like he was getting where he needed to be on his path. He would get out off the snap really quickly. He would get lined up and prevent a rush out wide. It wasn't like he was being beaten inside. And then he just seemed really reluctant to use his hands. Like it felt like Greg Rousseau was engaging his hands before and getting leverage underneath his pads. And I was like, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think for a guy his size, power is a problem. Like I haven't watched him like through the years, but I mean, I don't remember him coming out of Georgia and people being like, "Oh, he's getting
Right.
moved a lot." Like,
Right.
so the only thing I could come up is like, is he hurt? Is there like, there? He just seems like reluctant. It's not like a, unless there's something really wrong with his technique that I'm not seeing. It almost seemed like he was getting to the right place and then just allowing the defender to dictate instead of taking it to the defender.
I think someone asked maybe this past recently, very recently, someone asked him if he's injured, and he said, "I'm as healthy as I'm going to be," which is, maybe he's a little hurt, but he was trying not to make excuses. He said, like, I just have to be better, and I think the consensus, at least among some of the people that I follow on Twitter, was that his handwork is kind of the problem. It's been kind of a mess, especially in those last preseason
I
games.
see.
So it doesn't right with his size, you would not expect him to be pushed around a lot or moved around a lot. So I do feel like the natural explanation is just that. Well, I mean, there's depending on how far back you want to go here. Right? I feel like you might blame his hands at this point. Why would he have bad handwork at this point? You would have kind of thought he'd be further along. Um, so last year, I mean, you know, the expectation when we drafted him is that he was going to be a left tackle, and last year he had to play at right tackle a bunch. And now it's we're playing him at right tackle still, at least partly. And so I think that's you could blame that for his slower development, right? He's playing a position he's not used to and have to do sort of the opposite of what he's used to doing in some sense of opposite there. Um, I really would like to see him just stick at left tackle, but I guess the other wrinkle here is that Dan Moore has been better than expected, and so he might be um, making a stronger push for that left tackle position than we were planning, which is good in some capacity, in some respects, but makes life tough on Broderick Jones then.
And it sounds like even without more that they thought Troy Fautanu would play left tackle also. Is that right?
That is not what I
Oh,
thought.
okay.
I think the plan was to play him at right tackle.
Oh, I see.
Maybe, I mean, there was some speculation about where that was going to be, and there could have been reports that he was going to go to left tackle. But the ones that I saw, and what they've announced since then, I think, at least through reporters, is that he's gonna play right tackle, and he's gonna start there in week one, supposedly, if he's healthy. He's dealing with an injury too, actually.
And that would mean Broderick Jones is on the bench, or he would move back to the left.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. Given if Dan Moore is playing as well as supposedly he is, and he's definitely playing better than Broderick Jones is at right tackle, then I think, yeah, Jones would maybe go to the bench and be a backup to start, but um, which is certainly not where you would have hoped he would be coming into year
Mm.
two as a first round draft pick last year. But I don't know if the line is fine without him. Like, okay, great, just give him some time to work out whatever technique issues he's having, and hopefully he can do that.
Well, and continuing with the offensive line, this is hardly a revelation because I have seen that this is a commonly held position online by people who know way more about offensive line play than I do. But I feel like Zach Frazier looks awesome. Like, and especially seeing that like he's just come into the league, like he stood out to someone who doesn't know the intricacies of offensive line play at all. You just watch him and he just looks different. He looks like he knows what he's doing and he looks very good at whatever he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the videos that I was gesturing at earlier that you did about one of those running plays with Najee Harris getting like 8 yards or something like that. But you were breaking down the blocking scheme and showing what Frazier does in it. And that was an exciting breakdown for me to watch. Because as you put it right, he like clips defensive tackle and then goes to the second level and does a sort of almost like a 180 and blocks a linebacker to keep him away from Najee Harris on the run. And it's just like to see a center be that athletic. It reminded me of Marquise Pouncey a bit, in a way that you know, wow, I mean, he doesn't have to be as good as Marquise Pouncey for me to think we got a steal here, but that
Yeah,
would be
and
awesome.
he had a similar kind of thing on a screen pass too, where he gets out quick. He's a great combination. Like he gets to where he needs to go effortlessly. Like it never looks like he's like so. To kind of contrast it with like there was a play when I think this was Larry Ogunjobi. Like he beat a guard because the guard just like couldn't get to him fast enough. Like Zach Frazier just always gets where he's got to get, and he's stout when he gets there. Like it doesn't seem like usually those like quick linemen. Like I think of Casey Wegman, who I loved. He was a great offensive lineman, but if there was one flaw, it was that he was small and could get pushed around occasionally. But even then, I mean, I think I should give Wegman credit. Like he looked more often like Zach Frazier than not, but Zach Frazier just comes around and he doesn't get pushed either. Like he. I don't know what else you would want out of a center. Honestly, I just really loved watching him play.
Yeah, I hope this is no fluke, and he really is as good as you might extrapolate from the few plays we've seen him play so far in the preseason. But even the fact, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but even the fact that we're asking him to do that kind of second level block after clipping a defensive tackle, uh, to get to a linebacker on, it just, I don't know. That seems promising. Either we're doing stupid things in asking him, either we're being very stupid and asking him to make a block like that, or we think he's capable of it and he is showing us that he is, right? And I think that is promising, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It would be stupid to ask him to do anything at this point. he, it makes me excited. Like as someone who has never spent any time looking at center play, I'm very excited now to watch Creed Humphrey. Like if this is what good centers look like, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm jealous of your all 22 access here. I might have to look into that, but I've watched a couple a couple random videos on YouTube about offensive line breakdowns, and just like the amount of nuance and intricacy that's happening in like such a compact amount of time,
In
on top
space.
of like the yes in space, and the physicality of it, like combining all that, like it actually, like it doesn't get highlighted, right? I mean, maybe I feel like I might have talked about this on the show before, but it doesn't get highlighted on broadcast very much. But it is it is probably one of the most, once you get into it, I bet. I mean, I'm probably not as into it as one can be, but it's one of the most exciting or interesting probably elements of the game that there is.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge combination of like mental and physical that they're
Yeah,
processing so much so fast and then have to execute it really quickly in a short amount of time in a phone booth. It's really something.
yeah, yeah. That it's. I mean, I guess a lot of the game is this like really interesting combination of mental and physical demands. But I think uh, it's just very. It's kind of hidden how much the offensive line has to do that as well, and the ways in which they have to do it. Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to highlight before we have to take our break is this may just be just me not having paid that much attention to the Steelers like nuances, but I always thought of the Steelers as like a strictly 3-4 team. But it seems like they've had two defensive tackles and two edges on the field for a lot of, and the edges play like 3-4 outside linebackers, but there are two defensive tackles in instead of just a nose tackle. It seems like.
Yeah, I think for I don't know, a little. It's been a couple years now at least where it's felt like I wouldn't classify it as either 3-4 or 4-3 predominantly. It seems like we just have, you know, like people who will. Yeah, I mean, I've stopped using that characterization of our defense in my mind. I'll put it that way. Just because I think we do both more frequently, or we do both with a good deal of frequency. I guess, I mean, my impression is that the league in general has kind of moved that way too, but maybe that's just me reading more into general trends based on the Steelers than I should be. But I definitely I remember back in the like early 2000s, mid 2000s era, we were squarely a 3-4 team, right? And I also remember playing Madden, and I would always hate playing the 3-4 teams because the linebackers would always pick off my passes. But but I don't think that. Yeah, I don't know. I think we've just become more multiple, as Mike Tomlin might say, in our front.
Yeah, I wonder. It's kind of a combination of, I wonder, because Tomlin came from that like Tampa 2 4-3 background, and Dick LeBeau used to do like 3-4, and it sounds like Tomlin has found a way to make this high, because the Chiefs still, in my opinion, are a very strong 4-3 team. And I think for the Chiefs, it's like because of the kinds of players we select to play edge for us. We get these big, heavy, slower power guys to play edge, and so they're not really like able to be stand-up outside linebackers. But what's weird is the Steelers, to me, pick more of, I mean, you have guys like TJ Watt who are just like freaks, like he's any kind of edge you want him to be. But like Highsmith, even Nick Herbig, and the other guy whose name I've forgotten already, 53.
Kyron Johnson, yeah.
Kyron Johnson, like these guys seem like they're able to really stand up, and like if they needed to drop back in coverage, cover the flat, like you don't hate that. Whereas if George Karlaftis is covering the flat, I'm like, they better get to the quarterback quick because this isn't going to last very long.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's right. I mean, maybe that's just the kind of player we're looking for at that position now. But it does make it sort of harder to classify us as one or the other.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll take our first break and then maybe come back with some Chief stuff.
Sounds good. Welcome back. I co-opted the welcome back role there. Was that? Oh, I even said it wrong. It's supposed to be "and we're back." Anyway, okay, sorry. Well, let's do some Chiefs questions now. I think we talked a lot about the Steelers there. I have a bunch for you, and I want to. I was gonna start by just giving you a blank slate to talk about, anything you wanted to from the preseason so far. But the most important thing is this behind the back pass from Mahomes to Kelsey. So I want to make sure we bring that up. Any thoughts about that?
Well, it's the aftermath has almost been as funny as like it's one of the rare times when like I saw a play happen and I immediately pulled out my phone to record my computer because I was like, I have to get this right now and send it to everyone I know. Like it's been something that like has been rumored for like a couple years. Apparently Mahomes does it in practice and training camp all the time. And initially he used to be like kind of cagey, like, no, we wouldn't do that in a game. And then he kept being like, well, we got to try it in a game. And then the recent rumor was like Andy Reid was telling him that he needed to try it in a game, probably in jest because Andy Reid doesn't love putting the ball at risk. But he did it, and then the aftermath was really funny because Patrick Mahomes said that what happened was he was expecting Kelsey to come into the flat, and Kelsey ran the wrong route. And so Kelsey wasn't in position, and he, as a way of just being like, well, this play is dead, he just threw it to him behind his back, and they completed it. Kelsey did not dispute that account. He basically said that because of Patrick Mahomes' mumbly voice, he couldn't hear the play in the huddle. And Mahomes snapped it before he really knew what he was supposed to do. Andy Reid did dispute that account. Andy Reid basically was like, well, Patrick tried to throw Travis under the bus. He said he ran the wrong route. That's not what happened. Like, basically, it was more of an ad-lib play for both of them. But very exciting. Like, I can't believe that they did it, and it was so effortless. Like, it wasn't like a picturesque pass, but it did what it had to do.
Yeah. I honestly, like, I hope he does it in a regular season game at some point, right? It's the kind of thing where even just doing it in a preseason game, there's an element of like, well, people have to be aware that you can do it now, right? And they have to like at least might make him think like, do I need to be covering this person that otherwise, if he's not going to do a behind the back pass, he would never have to cover. Uh, and and so there's still an element of like, well, maybe he would only do it in the preseason, and maybe that's right. But if they do it, just do it like once in a regular season game, and then people have to have that on their radar, right? And I think that's that's cool. And you just love to see it on the other hand too, right? Just like he's already, I think I texted you this, he's already way better than everybody else, maybe significantly better. And he's just adding more elements to his game to make it harder to defend him. I mean, like that is what you want to see, right? That is, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he's going to do it in the regular season at some point, if only because I think he practices it so much that it's just going to like come before he thinks about it at some point. Someone will be in position and he'll just do it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't get like the worst that could happen, right, is it gets picked off or something like that. And then it doesn't have that element anymore. Like if he does it once and it gets picked off, then no one's going to be on guard for it anymore because they know he's not going to, probably know he's not going to do it again. But as long as it's not, that has an element of, there's a lot of strategy there. Anyway, okay, so maybe to more generally just talk about any stories or narratives in the Chiefs preseason so far that you want to highlight. I have a couple that I want to ask about, but maybe I'll just sort of turn it over to you and see what you're thinking about, what you're worried about or excited about.
Well, I think the number one thing about our preseason so far is the Hollywood Brown injury. I think that is going to impact us and how we play. It's especially unfortunate it came like early. If he had been hurt in week 15, it would have been, I mean, he would have missed more time, so that would be worse for that reason. But as far as how it would impact our offense, I think him missing a couple games early in the year will impact the offense a lot more than him missing a couple games, after, especially Xavier Worthy has been an NFL receiver for a little longer. He's kind of our one guy that can do it all, besides Kelsey, of course. So he was that extra guy that could be relied on to beat man coverage and get open when they kind of clamp down and try to see if the Chiefs receivers can actually beat them on. Now, it looks like the big difference between now and, several weeks ago when we first talked about what Hollywood Brown's role could be is that it doesn't look like Rashee Rice is going to be suspended to start the season. Like, I had just been assuming we'd be without him for the first 8 weeks or so. Now, he may still get suspended at some point in the season, but it doesn't look like it's going to be early. So that lessens the blow from that perspective. But Rashee Rice also was not great at separating versus man last year, except when he ran like a drag route or something. He did run a really good whip route in week 2 of the preseason, so maybe he's doing a little better. So that's a little bit of a worry, but at least with like Rice, Worthy, and Kelsey, you have 3 people. And I do believe Worthy is going to be an all 3 levels player. I just wouldn't rely on him to do that as a rookie. So that's kind of the number one blow. I would be shocked if Brown plays before week 3. And I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a little longer, even week 4 or week 5 before he comes back. Everyone keeps saying 4 weeks. I mean, Tyreek Hill had this exact same injury in week 1 of the 2019 season. And he not only, so this was like, very similarly, it was the first drive of week 1. Actually, I think it was the second drive, because the first drive we had like a long touchdown to Sammy Watkins to start. So I think it was our second drive. And he ended up missing like basically that entire week 1 game. And then he missed weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then he ended up coming back in week 6 against the Texans. So, and Tyreek Hill, I think, is notorious for not missing a lot of time when he's hurt. Unfortunately, Hollywood Brown has the opposite reputation. So, he's more often injured. So I would not, he's going to miss, I believe 4 weeks would have put him right at week 1. I think he's going to miss week 1 and week 2. I would almost guarantee it. And then from week 3, we'll kind of see when he'll come back.
Yeah. Um, well, that was one of the things I wanted to ask about. Do you think where do you expect Xavier Worthy to fit in? Then is he going to be wide receiver two this
Yeah,
early?
but I think all we can really expect. He will be wide receiver too, but he's not going to have like a big route tree. Like all we can really expect, I think, is he's going to run deep routes, like clear out routes, and he's going to do like bubbles and some gadget plays. It'll be very similar, I think, to McCole Hardman's rookie year, where they'll send him on goes, and man, he's fast enough that he's going to open up the field in ways that people didn't before. Um, but he's just not going to have that developed of a route tree. So our hope is that he opens it up so that Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce can do some things underneath. And if the preseason is any judge, the next man up that seems to play the same route tree as Hollywood Brown is Sky Moore, who unfortunately has not been a very productive wide receiver, but so not ideal.
Yeah. I mean, it's not ideal, but on the other hand, it's is it worse than it was last year? I don't think so, right? I think
No,
there's
that's
more
true.
hope for. Um, Granted, that was a weak point last year for at least most of the regular season, but you managed. um, Anyone else wide receiver wise that you think could step up here, or or is it going to be from those names that you're drawing to fill the void?
No, I think pretty much all of our production from wide receivers is going to be Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. I don't, based on last year, I mean, there was so much opportunity for. Oh, I forgot Justin Watson. Justin Watson will, I expect him to be a similar, like, between 350 and 400 yards, maybe up to 500 for the season if he has a good
Mm-hmm.
year. But he'll be reliable and he'll run a key quarter pattern on a third down that'll make Troy Aikman go crazy when Patrick Mahomes hits him right in the hands. Like it'll be one of those. But so he's very useful and very important. But so I think those three will be the guys who are producing from the wide receiver room right now. I
Yeah,
just I don't I wish Sky Moore because it felt like he should be a good receiver, but I think his problem is he can't handle the physicality of NFL corners. Like they just move him off his spot too much. And unfortunately I fear the ship has sailed on Kadarius Toney. I don't know if he actually makes it to week one roster.
oh yeah, yeah. Uh, Tough for him. I feel like he's had a rough a rough stretch, definitely. Okay, I want to ask specifically about Kingsley Suamataia, if I'm saying the name right. I still can't remember if that's right. But maybe I'll just do that first, and then ask more generally other players you're worried or excited about. But does it look like he's going to be starting at left tackle? Is that right?
Yeah, I think we can say pretty certainly he's going to be our left tackle. And to be honest with you, I didn't know what that meant early on because it just felt like they kind of handed him the job. And Wanye Morris has been hurt too. He actually hasn't played in the preseason. And week one, Kingsley only played 6 snaps, which on one hand we didn't get to see a lot, and on the other hand, the fact that they pulled him that early meant that they didn't need to see more reps from him, which I thought was good. And then he played week two, and he actually looked pretty good. So he might actually be a good left tackle. Like, not that, I think he always had the physical profile. The question was just the offensive style that he played in BYU and the fact that he didn't have a lot of technique having gone through that system. But he's athletic, and he held his own in week two. So this could end up being a steal to get him at the end of the second round. Like he's looking like he might be, plug him in for 10 to 15 years left tackle. But it's one preseason game, so we'll see.
Yeah. But that is pretty cool. Do you have any trepidation about going in to the season with a rookie left tackle? Given that the franchise's blind side is being protected there, how worried are you, basically?
Not very. Just because ever since the year we lost the Super Bowl to the Bucks, our tackle play has never been that great. uh, I think even in 2022 when we won the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly, I think we led the league in pressures given up by our tackles. So Mahomes seems much more adept at handling pressure coming from the outside. I mean, obviously, I'm not thrilled at the prospect of him getting hurt ever. I would like less pressure, but it doesn't seem to affect our offense's ability. And Mahomes is elite at evading sacks, and hopefully will continue to be so.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think with a different quarterback, I would be very worried. But I think maybe you're right. Mahomes has the experience there to know how to handle inexperience at the left tackle position. Um, what maybe more generally now, what is a position that you think is maybe the biggest concern at this point?
Um, I feel like it might be a tie. It's either our second cornerback position, which I would describe very similarly to how Terrell Austin described your slot corner situation, uh, and defensive end. So I think the thing that's a little troubling about cornerback two for us is we have people on the roster that have been good third corners. Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams kind of have rotated third corner in the last couple of years because we've had Snead and McDuffie. And now Snead is gone, and McDuffie is our first corner, and we were hoping that somebody would kind of grab that second corner role. Watson's been hurt. Williams has been fine, but nothing spectacular. And the other option was Najee Johnson, who apparently was pushing Watson and Williams for the third corner role last year and then tore his ACL in training camp. We also have Kelvin Joseph, who is like a former second-round pick. He's got some pedigree. And we have Keith Taylor, who was a former fifth-round pick but is from Washington University, who seemed to produce a lot of good corners. So that's the one reason why I'm keeping my eyes on him. But it doesn't seem like anybody has like run away with this. And it's just, to me, a lot different having a committee for your second corner versus your third corner. So I'm a little concerned. I'm hoping Williams and Watson have shown flashes. We just need one person to be consistent that they could be on the field all the time. So,
do you have a prediction about who that's going to be?
It depends to me on the health of Jalen Watson. If Jalen Watson is healthy, I think it'll be him. He's every year, even when he's like started slow, like for his rookie year, he was clearly the more preferred of the two. Last year, I feel like he started very slowly. Williams was kind of even with him, and then Watson kind of took over later in the year. So I would imagine it'll be his again, even though he was a seventh-round pick and Williams was a fourth-round pick. It just seems like he's always been a little bit better. He's also had some really clutch, like in 22, he picked off Herbert and had a pick six as a rookie. He had an interception in the divisional round of Trevor Lawrence, and then he picked Joe Burrow in the AFC title game. So he's like had some very clutch interceptions and shown good ball skills too. So it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, picking off Joe Burrow like raises my opinion of him just just for that, right? More than it would raise picking off anyone else probably. Not because Joe Burrow is better than anyone else, just because I don't like him. But what about defensive end? You were saying that was another position of concern.
Well, I think the big problem is that Charles Omenihu, who is, like some might argue, our best defensive end, maybe our second best, is still out because he tore his ACL in the AFC title game. And he has been adamant throughout the offseason that he is going to be back and that anyone who says he's not is going to doubt him. But I realistically don't think he's going to be back before October or November-ish. I mean, if he is and he's great before, more power to him, but it sounds tough. So now we've got George Karlaftis and Mike Dana are our starting ends. George Karlaftis has been, a good defensive end. He's not a great defensive end. He potentially could be this year. This is his third year, and he's already kind of moving on a trajectory that's faster than I think a lot of people anticipated. Mike Dana is another good defensive end who is more kind of adept as a run defender. He's actually a very good interior rusher on passing downs. They could kick him inside, and he's very good. And then Chris Jones often kicks outside to edge on passing downs. When I say often, I mean like 30% of the time or something, but it tends to be in very impactful moments. At least he makes impact. The moment may not be impactful, but he becomes impactful in those moments. Beyond that, Felix Anudike-Uzomah was our first round draft pick last year and basically redshirted his rookie year. His biggest problem as a rookie was that he was so slow off the snap. Like, it's almost like he couldn't figure out the snap count. That doesn't seem to be the case this year, which is nice. And he's got traits, like he is the one guy we have that can get around the edge. He seems like he's like a good-ish pass rusher, but he's really young and really raw. And the fact that we only have two guys ahead of him and he still hasn't looked that great is troubling to me, especially because he's year two. Like, I don't know how good I will feel about his potential to be a good defensive end if he has 2 years of like no production. After that, the cupboard is essentially bare. So we've got two guys who we trust, one guy who we hope we can trust, and nobody else. Malik Herring will make the roster, and he's a great like fifth defensive end to have. I don't know about when you get to fourth, and honestly maybe third with how Felix Anudike-Uzomah is playing. So he also is more of like a run defender, not like a ton of pass rush juice. And then like we're getting down to like Truman Jones, who was an undrafted free agent from Harvard last year. Like there's not a lot. So I don't know. I feel like my hope going into the preseason was that Felix Anudike-Uzomah would look good, and so we'd have three competent people. With how it's gone, I kind of hope the Chiefs like pick someone else up, like pick up a veteran or trade for someone. I don't even know who that veteran would be. Like we don't really have any options. So then like Matthew Judon came on the market, and I was like, yeah, let's get him. But he ended up going to the Falcons. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. And I guess I'm noting that both of the positions of concern are on the defense, so that also might be you would like to distribute them a bit more, perhaps. But well, still on Mahomes, right? He cancels out a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see. What maybe I was going to ask for three, but if you want to change the number, go ahead. Like 3-ish players that you are very excited about at this point of the preseason that are like jumping out in maybe ways that we haven't talked, like maybe ones we haven't talked about before, or in ways that you didn't expect.
I think let me see. God, I was so ready for this to be Hollywood Brown. I'm still very disappointed he's not going to play at the beginning of the year.
I mean, I feel like you could just add, you could put him in there, right?
Well, I thought he was going to be very good this year, and I hope he still will. I think, the guy who has to excite Chiefs fans the most has got to be Xavier Worthy. He is so fast and so effortlessly fast. Like he had that kind of stop and go stutter move, and he scored a touchdown on it on a pass from Carson Wentz, and
it didn't even look like he was trying, right? It wasn't straining to run super fast or anything. He just runs right by the corner of safety. I don't know who it was, but
yeah, so I think that is very, very exciting, and I think just because of his ability, as long as he can track a ball, because that has been a trouble for Chiefs receivers in the last 12 months. As long as he can track a deep ball, the offense is going to look better because defenses are going to have to backpedal. He's so fast. So I think he's the number one thing that gives me excitement. I think that will lead the offense to look better. The other one we've discussed, Kingsley Suamataia, is I was a little bit skeptical. I actually posted a video at the end of July where I was talking about him versus Wanye Morris and just saying, like, the Chiefs can't be that high on him. They drafted him with the 64th pick. That was kind of my thought process. Was like left tackle is one of those positions where your stars usually come from the first round. And the fact that we waited that long and the league waited that long to draft him meant that, like, maybe he was winning this by default, not because he was great. But then seeing him play, like, maybe there is more potential than I thought, and maybe he's actually going to be really good. And then the other person who's going to be interesting, especially we haven't even discussed the fact that Justin Reed mysteriously got hurt before our first preseason game. Actually, I think it was right at the beginning of training camp or before training camp started. I don't really know what happened because he was fine in the mandatory mini camps and OTAs. Then he comes into training camp hurt and he's like missing all of training camp and then maybe some of the season. But
what's the injury?
I don't even remember. They've been very cryptic about it. Well, I probably should know, but I don't remember.
I don't know what 53 is, so.
Well, neither do I. As you can see in the video when I just don't say his name. Okay. Let me see if they have anything. I honestly don't remember. Oh, it's a quad. Okay. It's a quad injury, but I'm not sure how he picked it up. But we have a 4th-round rookie named Jaden Hicks, who looks like he's going to be an interesting safety and might like fight for some playing time. He's one of those kind of hybrid box guys who is like a small linebacker but fast, and I think he's going to have a lot of playing time too. I really think this might end up being like a really good draft class. Maybe if we're lucky on par with the 2022 class. So I think that's what there is to be excited about in Kansas City. It's mainly the rookies because they are showing a lot more potential than, for example, we were thinking maybe some 2nd and 3rd year guys would really step up. But it's the rookies that have us all excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I note that you did not mention Carson Wentz in your excitement group. Have you watched him play much so far? Like, how's he been? I mean, obviously, we hope that he doesn't have to play in the regular season.
It's been a little hard to tell because our second team offensive line has sucked. Like, the second team offensive line essentially, since Wanye Morris isn't playing and he would have been like our swing tackle, I presume. Our left tackle, well, they've been kind of moving around, but we have Chu Godric, who was like a practice squad guy last year. He's been playing a lot of tackle, and he's actually been okay. Lucas Niang, who was a 3rd-round pick the COVID year, has not looked awesome in pass protection, but is a good run blocker, so that doesn't help Carson Wentz. And then our guards are both rookies. One was a 5th-rounder, and one was a 7th-rounder from an FCS school. And, man, I mean, especially like this being the first year I've really been looking at all 22, like you want to see some missed blocks and some getting knocked over. Like Broderick Jones would be like looking at them being like, wow, you got to work on some power. Like,
are we talking like Kendrick Green level here? Like that kind of whiff? Or
there were a couple snaps like that, yeah. I will say preseason week 2 was a lot better than preseason week 1. So it might just be like, these are late round rookies who are adjusting to the speed and strength of the NFL. But there were some comical snaps in week 1, like pulling guard, just coming out to a linebacker and completely missing him, having him run right by him and stop the run. Like this center who is Mike Caliendo, who's actually a guard, was playing backup center, just snapping the ball over Carson Wentz's head. Like it was stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, Carson Wentz is definitely the best backup that Mahomes has had, and it's not just in name. Like, he has played that way. He's just played in some really tough circumstances.
Okay. Well, that it's good to have, when your backup is, I mean, I feel like you could argue that Carson Wentz is better than either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields at this point of their career. So, I guess I should be jealous. Oh, I'm jealous certainly of Mahomes, but Chubby Checker get back up, maybe.
Well, I would put it this way: like we have with Mahomes, we've had backups that could come in and manage a game or manage like 2 or 3 games well enough for us to win if Mahomes out. Carson Wentz to me could win a game. Like he could go out and win it by himself. I don't think he could do it consistently, but if we needed him to just come in and be like, no, we need like an actual starting level performance from you to go out and win the game, I think he could do that. And I don't think we've had a backup like that.
Yeah, that's a nice luxury. That's yeah, that's good stuff.
Some
um,
some Chiefs fans have said he's the second best quarterback in the AFC West since Herbert is hurt.
yeah, so Bo Nix is now the starter in Denver, right? I
Yeah.
just saw that maybe earlier today. Was that must be a promising for you. I mean, that's good news, right?
Yeah, well, we've got Bo Nix and Gardner Minshew, and then Herbert looks like he might come back now, but plantar fasciitis is a it's a condition that lingers. You know, it's like your plantar fascia. People talk about the hamstring being something that lingers all the time because you use it all the time. Well, the same is true of your plantar fascia. Like you're on it all the time, so it's kind of hard for it to heal without you resting it for a very long time. So we'll see. I feel bad for Herbert. He's a good quarterback, and it would be. I hope he's at 100%, and I hope we beat him at 100% because that would be great. But I feel like it'll be tough.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but it is shaping up fairly well for the Chiefs, at least in the AFC West. Right? That's all I have about the Chiefs. Anything else that you wanted to highlight, or should we? I know I guess we gotta wrap up in a little bit because I have to run to get my dog from the vet before they close. Um, so we could do some general NFL things if you want, or
You can.
we can do some anecdotes. I can complain about Brandon Ayuk, or whatever. What do you think would be? What do you want to do?
Oh, I did want to. I should have done this in the Steelers segment. I forgot. I did want to say that. What do you think about the fact that there's some rumors that the holdup in the trade with San Francisco is that they wanted a receiver back, and that you traded Deontay Johnson for what we felt. I don't even remember what pick it was, but it seemed like not enough for Deontay Johnson.
We got Dante Jackson for Deontay Johnson.
Oh, that's right. It's like if you had
Yeah,
him, would that have made the Brandon Ayuk trade work? And if so, what do you feel about dealing Deontay Johnson so early?
yeah. I mean, then we would have needed another corner, so there's that. But
Hmm.
I didn't want them to trade Deontay Johnson, and here we are, like one injury away from having an incredibly bad wide receiver room. I mean, it's not good as it is, but uh, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what the 49ers think they can get at this point. They're going to have to find a team like, I don't they need a team that has a disgruntled wide receiver like them and wants to go to San Francisco, much like maybe Ayuk wants to leave. I don't even know if it's clear that he really does. Like, there's a read of this whole situation where he's just sort of using the Steelers as leverage to get more from San Francisco. And it does look like they're headed toward something, some sort of deal there. But again, I don't want to predict this thing. It's gone on way longer than I think anyone involved wants it to have gone. Uh,
But it does seem like this is kind of San Francisco's MO. Like with Nick Bosa and Debo Samuel, like they're these guys, they're really mad, they're holding out, and then they re-sign with San Francisco. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think they're comfortable playing the long game here, and honestly, they have the leverage to play the long game, right? Uh, if I were the Steelers, I would be, like you want him there sooner rather than later, so he can get to work on the offense, and because you have other players that you want to sign and know what your cap situation is going to be, or have a better sense of that, whether you're going to have to be paying Ayuk this much. Um, like Cam Hayward wants an extension and wants a lot. I think Pat Freiermuth might be on up for an extension soon. Maybe we want to extend him at least. And these are things that we don't negotiate with players during the regular season, so we have our sort of artificially imposed deadline very soon here, and I think San Francisco just knows, like, if they wait, then either we'll up the offer or they'll just, they'll get something done with Ayuk or he'll play. I can't imagine he's going to not play this season, but maybe he would. So yeah, I mean, we put ourselves in the situation by trading Deontay Johnson, and here we are. I still, it's cool that we're in the running for some, like, we don't typically do things like this, but we're also, like, part of what's unusual is that we are not spending a lot this year. We have a lot of cap space, so it would be good to do something with that. I don't know what we can at this point, aside from hope that they trade us Ayuk. Anyway, yeah, I want to stop thinking about that because I have wasted so much time wondering if we're going to get him and, like, trying to refresh Twitter and see, like, do we get him yet? I got to just, not worth it.
Yeah, it's weird because before all of this, like, I was quite confident that the Niners would keep Ayuk, and I am again now. But in the middle, like, some people seemed really convinced it was happening with the Steelers. Enough for me to sway my opinion, but I guess I was bamboozled.
Yeah, there were moments there where I also thought, I mean, Tomlin had a couple of remarks where it was like, he said something, it's too early on the West Coast right now and it's like clearly he's referring to Brandon Ayuk there. And I would have thought he wouldn't say something like that unless he was confident that a trade would go through. But I don't know, maybe, again, maybe Ayuk's been playing us all along here. Who knows? But it's one of those ones where I guess I gotta disengage from it at this point. If it happens, that'll be amazing. But I'm not invested in it happening anymore. I'm expecting that we'll go in with Pickens and then a bunch of other people. I am excited to see what Pickens can do. I mean, when he's the only real threat, that's going to be a concern. But like, we didn't ask him. There's still, like, he's going to year 3 here, and we haven't seen a lot of, there's a number of routes that I have not seen him do, and I expect he can run them and be good at them. But I'm curious what he's going to be like. We've seen him on a lot of slants in the preseason or in training camp, and I think we didn't typically run him on slants before in Canada's offense. So that could be. It should be good, right? Like, he's athletic and can make things happen. So
yeah, I saw a stat that in his. Wait, this is year 3 for him, right? I think his rookie year, he had the lowest yak per catch in the entire league. And then he was like top 10 in yak per catch last year or something. So
yeah,
I feel like that will be that's a very big area for him, I think, where he could be extremely effective. Like, that's got to be a ding on Canada to have George Pickens as the lowest yak per reception player in the NFL. Like, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. He did have a couple long. I think there were some slants last year that he took to the house, really long ones. But that might have been after Canada left, actually. Yeah. Anyway. I'm excited to see what he can do. On the other hand, that also, like, there are things we haven't seen him do reliably yet, so it could be that he's just not great at them. Fairly unproven. Sorry, my dog here is snorting. I don't know if you can hear. Something like a pig. This is not the dog that's at the vet. I have 2 dogs, just to be clear. Let's see. We gotta wrap up. I'm doing the math. I guess we could come back briefly, but maybe we should try to wrap up.
Yeah, we could. We can probably forego the anecdotes. We'll leave them hanging for our our preview podcast. So, just so you all know, we will be. So, I'm gonna try to put out a film review. Just full disclosure that I wasn't able to get the Chiefs All 22 yet, so I'm waiting on that. Although some people have it, so I don't know why it's not on my NFL Plus premium account, but it's not on mine. So when I get that, I will put a video up. The Chiefs play again tomorrow, but it's all backups. So I'll try to put some stuff up. We'll see what gets up next week. But in my free time, I will cut clips of the Chiefs and the Steelers, all 22, and try to put stuff up. Next week, we're going to be talking to Lonnie again about Ohio State football. So anyone who's interested. And then Chris and I will be back the day of opening night. That day we'll do a full NFL preview podcast. We probably won't preview the Chiefs-Ravens game because it will happen like right as I put this podcast up, so there won't be any point.
You know what would be cool? Maybe we should think about it, but if we could do the podcast during the game. I think it probably won't work because we'll be in different, we'll probably be getting the game at slightly different speeds or whatever. So you'll see plays before I do or vice versa. But it would be cool to have sort of live reactions watching the game.
Yeah, that's
sometime we could do that. That'd be fun.
All right, but thanks to all of you that follow along on social media. Again, we're at STCF715 on all the platforms.
Yeah, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
All right, until next time.